Ever started a project and felt like suddenly you were in way over your head? Like the scope just it kept growing and growing, and you couldn't rein it in.
Oh yeah, that sinking feeling. It's pretty common, actually. We call that scope creep in the biz.
Yeah, scope creep. Ugh. It's a project killer for sure. But today, we're diving deep into how to prevent that from happening in the first place.
We're talking about mastering requirement gathering.
Exactly. And we're using this really insightful piece by 𝘀cie as our guide today. He's got some great tactics for defining those project requirements clearly right from the very beginning.
And that's critical.
Oh, absolutely critical. Because you won't believe this, but get this, a whopping 71% of software projects, they just fail. And you want to know why?
Poor requirements management.
You hit the nail on the head. Poor requirements management. So let's figure out how we can avoid that fate, shall we?
Sounds like a plan? Let's dive in.
Okay, so 𝘀cie really stresses that vague requirements are, well, they're like the villain in the story.
Right. They're often the biggest reason projects go off the rails.
Totally. I've seen it happen so many times. You think everyone's on the same page, but then all these assumptions start creeping in.
Yep.
And next thing you know, boom, you're dealing with expensive changes, super frustrating delays. It's a mess.
It's like a domino effect, for sure.
So can you explain, like, why are clear requirements so critical in preventing that whole domino effect from even starting?
Well, it's all about having a strong foundation. Think of it like building a house.
Okay, I'm with you.
You wouldn't just start building a house without a detailed blueprint, right?
No way. That would be chaos.
Right. And vague requirements, it's kind of like trying to build that house with just like a rough sketch, maybe some scribbles on the back of the napkin.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you end up with walls in the wrong places, a
Yeah.
roof that leaks. You've got one unhappy homeowner.
I can just imagine. Total disaster.
Exactly. And in the software world, it's the same principle. If the requirements aren't clear, then we start making these assumptions, which leads to tons of rework, missed deadlines. Morale takes a huge hit.
And nobody wants that.
Definitely not.
So 𝘀cie lays out this 4-step solution. I like it. It's pretty practical.
It is, yeah.
His first step, collaborate early. Okay, so we need to actively engage all the stakeholders right off the bat.
Right from the get-go.
Not just like huddle up with a small team and try to figure it all out ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We've got to bring everyone to the table.
Okay, so talk to me more about that early collaboration. What does that really look like?
Well, in those early stages, it's all about gathering insights and different perspectives from every single stakeholder.
Gotcha.
And 𝘀cie, he really emphasizes the importance of structured workshops, having one-on-one interviews.
Okay.
This isn't just about collecting a wish list of what everyone wants. It's about actively listening to folks,
You're right.
understanding the why behind each request, what are their needs, their motivations. And you also want to tease out any potential pain points early on.
That makes a lot of sense. But I got to say, sometimes getting everyone on the same page, it can be tricky.
Oh, yeah, especially when you're dealing with abstract ideas.
Right. So how do you make those more concrete?
Well, that's where 𝘀cie's second step comes in. Visualize with prototypes.
Love that. Turn those abstract ideas into something real.
Exactly. Visualization is key to bridging that gap between what we think we're building and what stakeholders actually need. We can talk about features all day,
Sure.
but a well-crafted prototype, that's where the magic happens. Could be a wireframe, a mock-up, even an interactive simulation.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it gives everyone a tangible representation of the project, and often you'll get feedback that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Oh yeah, prototypes can spark some great conversations. I've seen it happen. It's like suddenly everyone's on the same page. They get it.
Totally. It's like that aha moment when the vision crystallizes.
I love that. But a prototype, that's not the whole story, right?
Nope.
We still need good documentation, which brings us to 𝘀cie's third step. And I think this one is often underestimated.
Yeah, documentation is key.
What's your take on it?
Well, documentation, it's not about creating these big, dusty manuals that nobody ever reads. It's about having that single source of truth.
Gotcha.
And everyone can refer back to it. 𝘀cie, he recommends using user stories to capture those requirements.
User stories, good idea.
Yeah, they lay out the who, the what, and the why of each requirement. He also talks about traceability matrices. Those are great for linking requirements to specific deliverables.
So nothing slips through the cracks.
Right. And the key here, it's all about clarity and conciseness. Imagine trying to build something complex from a bunch of cryptic notes.
Oh, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Total nightmare.
Yeah, so good documentation, it's like that detailed map, that keeps everyone moving in the same direction.
I like that analogy.
But, as projects go on, it's easy to get distracted.
It happens to the best of us.
Shiny new ideas pop up, more requests come in.
And that's when things can go haywire.
Totally. So that brings us to 𝘀𝗀𝗾𝗃's fourth and final step. Prioritize ruthlessly.
Sounds kind of harsh, but it's necessary.
Yeah, it's not about being mean. It's about making smart choices, right?
It is. Prioritization, it's
Yeah.
all about making those tough calls and focusing on the stuff that truly matters.
And must-haves.
Exactly. 𝘀𝗀𝗾, he likes the Moscow method. Have you heard of that one?
I have, yeah.
So you've got your must-haves, should-haves, could-haves, and won't-haves.
And that won't-have category, that can be a hard one for people.
It can be.
Right.
But it's important. So let's say we're building an e-commerce platform. A secure payment gateway, that's definitely a must-have.
For sure.
But a super sophisticated recommendation engine, maybe that's a could-have.
Right.
It's nice, but it might not be essential for launch.
I see your point.
Yeah.
By prioritizing that way, you make sure you're delivering the most value and you're staying within budget and on schedule.
Exactly.
It makes me think of that saying, perfection is the enemy of good.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Sometimes you just got to focus on those core requirements and not get bogged down in every little bell and whistle.
Absolutely.
But let's be honest. Sometimes it's tempting to just skip these steps. You think, oh, I'll save time, I'll get things moving faster.
Yeah.
But 𝘀𝗀𝗾, he cautions against that.
And with good reason.
He does. So tell me, what happens when you try to take that shortcut?
Well, skipping requirement gathering, it might seem like a time saver at first.
Right.
But more often than not, it ends up backfiring. Big time.
Uh-oh. How so?
Imagine you're trying to fix a crack in a foundation, but the house is already built.
Yikes. That sounds difficult.
It's not only way harder, but it's also way more expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And some research shows that fixing issues later on in a project can be, get this, up to 100 times more costly than addressing them up front.
100 times. Wow. Okay, that is a serious wake-up call.
Huh.
So spending time on thorough requirement gathering, it's not just about getting things right. It's about saving money in the long run.
Exactly. It's about proactive planning, not reactive patching. Much less stressful that way, too.
Absolutely. And, all this isn't just for software development, right? These principles, they apply to any project where you need clear goals and expectations. So planning a conference?
Launching a marketing campaign.
Heck, even organizing a big family gathering.
All of it.
Mastering requirement gathering, it's like a superpower.
It is.
It gives you the power to steer the ship and not get tossed around by all those waves of uncertainty.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question. Think about a project you're working on right now. How could you apply these principles to make things run smoother and set yourself up for success?
Yeah, think about that. And if you want to share your thoughts or any strategies you found helpful, let us know in the comments.
We love hearing from you. Until next time, happy diving.